All right, well, good morning to those of you who are here. I'm glad to have you. How's everyone? Yeah, right? It's that time. And it's sunny. Why is it so sunny? My phone last night was like rain in 15 minutes. I was like, are you sure? I don't think I was like, there's a little bit of like drizzle on my car this morning, but okay, I'm definitely sort of rain. But it's a little cooler today. I'll take that. Like I always want it to be cold for Halloween because all the costumes, I feel like they're like I wore an inflatable dino costume last year and it was so hot. I was like, I'm gonna pass out in this thing. Yeah, yeah. It's horrible. You wish it was cold for that.
Take my shirt off on in the suit because it was so hot.
Right? I believe it. I dressed up for soccer practice last year in it and I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. Not this year, no, I don't think I should be doing that this year. Maybe something else. But I wanted to remind you of the exam. I wrote it up on the board. So I won't see you Monday. Okay, just like the first exam. So our second test will be on Monday. It'll open up at 12:01 a.m. and close at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so you have all day to take it. You can use this time. I'm giving you this time, but if you would rather take it a little bit later and sleep in or have a nice early lunch or late breakfast or whatever, right? Think of me as you do, but you may take it whenever that day. The study guide and everything is on Canvas. So just like the last test, just to point it out really quickly, if you click on modules, you can find the study guide right here, study guide number 2. I always hesitate to say this, but I feel like this exam is easier than exam 1 because there's no anatomy on it. I feel like the anatomy makes the first test a little bit harder. But you can see on here the things you need to know. So it's chapters 11, 7 and 3, 8 and 9, and 10. So if it's on here, make sure that you know it and you're comfortable with it and you can answer questions about it. If it's not on here, you can let it go. And remember, it's mostly multiple choice and true, false, and matching. But there are a couple of short answer questions. And I think you can find them, like the 4 stages of the sexual response cycle would be one to know, right? For example, or like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's generally lists of like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. So just make sure that you do review the study guide. Make sure that you obviously take the test on Monday. You don't want to miss it. It's worth 100 points. So you have all the way till 11:59 p.m. If you wish you had done a little bit better, use the study guide, right? So a lot of you did great on that first one, but if you didn't do the study guide and write it out and prepare, that's something that you could easily do to kind of improve. But that's worth 100 points. So remember that the exams, if you click on quizzes, I wish I could change it to exams, but I have no power over that. But it's right here where it says exam number 2. And again, it'll open at 12:01 a.m. and close at 11:59 p.m. So just make sure you do it before that deadline. Are there any questions, anything about the test? Hopefully you feel okay about it. I know this unit has been a little weird because I was here and not, but I made lectures for the ones I missed and hopefully we'll get through most of what we have left. Yeah.
So also have a 10 minute.
Yes, so it's 75 minutes, just like the first one. Unless there are some people who have like memos that give you more time, but otherwise, yes, 75 minutes. Most of you finished in like 59, 60 minutes last time was the average, if I remember right. So just be aware of the clock, right? And you can always skip if you don't know the answer to something, like skip it and come back to it. Yeah.
Any questions, Ron?
So it's the same, about the same as last time. So it is 82 questions, 82. But again, like a good chunk of them are like, some of them are true, false, which should be like pretty fast. So if you don't know the answer, skip it and come back. But typically it's been more than enough time if I look at like the average. When we come back from the exam, so I won't see you Monday. When we come back, we'll look at contraception and abortion, pregnancy and birth, STIs, and then selling sex and power in sex. We have some fun and interesting topics in the last like third, and then we have Thanksgiving in there somewhere. So, but don't forget about that on Monday. And we do have one more assignment as well, but that's not due until November, so we won't worry about that yet. And when I see you on Wednesday, I'll bring candy because it'll be like 2 days before Halloween. So I have my little pumpkin bucket. I'm ready to go. I got all my candy yesterday. It's filled, ready to go. No, I won't make it. Won't make you. My soccer kids on Thursday, they all have to come dressed up. And we're gonna do all these like soccer games that are Halloween. I'm excited for that. Like a candy salad. You all don't have to dress up. If you're here, I will hand out candy, right? That's all you have to do is come. All right. Anything else about any of that or like schedule stuff, any of that kind of stuff at all? Feeling good? Okay. So I gave you a little homework assignment with the Kesha song. What I want to do is just give you like a couple of minutes, right? You can connect with the people around you really quickly. Like, what did you come up with? If you want to take a few minutes and do that together, and then we'll talk about it and I'll collect it. But find a couple of people around you, kind of compare what you came up with related to the chemistry of falling in love. And we don't have a ton of us, so if you want to like get into groups of like 2 or 3 or whatever's easy, and then I'll collect it. Oops. 2, 3. And you can collectively turn in one together, or you can turn in your own. It's up to you. Just make sure your first and last name is on there. Yeah, yeah, of course. So next time, email me. Oh my God. Well, I hope you had a good time at least. Okay.
Which is a big deal.
Right.
Also,
With sad tones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was fun and sad at the same time.
No, I understand.
School just went.
Oh wait, hold on to it for 1 second. We're gonna, we'll talk about it first. No, I understand. But so if you ever just email me and I'll send it to you. But at least this way you can.
Playing on the right.
Oh man.
I forgot the vote, you know.
No, so the network has been, the printers are still down here because of the network outage, so I wasn't able to print.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, it was forgotten, but not intentionally, or intentionally, or. So I'll give you a couple minutes and we can talk about it together. See if you can identify again kind of some of the specifics. Getting this song stuck in my head, you know, I keep trying to push it out of my head, it keeps coming back. Really? I'm sorry, and you're welcome, I don't know what to do. My daughter was like, there are better ones that you could have played. And I was like, oh,
It's so good though.
I was like, I don't think it's like it's perfect for this. Like,
This is beautiful.
are you all ready? Like, most of you look ready, which is good. I'm glad you're okay. So, got it. Okay, well, let's talk about it together. So, give me like, what I did is I went through it, and I saw some of you doing this too. I don't know if you underlined the lyric or had an example, but anyone have any examples in here? What are some like connections to the chemistry of love in the lyrics? Like, anyone have one you're willing to start with? Yeah.
Oh wait, I just realized that. I'm gonna get the paper out.
Sure. Well, he does that. Anyone have an example you want to start with? Something you underline that connects you?
The lines "I've got a sick obsession" and "Your love is my drug" can kind of relate to people who fall like, you know, dependent or obsessed with their partner in the first 2 months of the relationship.
Okay,
It's not really like a good thing, but
but still.
it kind of, that's kind of what I think.
Okay, and if we're talking about like obsession and being obsessed with your partner, which one of these would that be? I remember I wrote it up on the board. Which like neurotransmitter with like that obsession? All you can think about. Serotonin, right? So serotonin, so dopamine is more of like that stimulating like kind of effect, but it would be serotonin, right? So like you can see that like that obsession, or all I think about like then the like staying up all night and not being able to sleep and being so up would be like dopamine, right? Like, so you can see examples of kind of like how those neurotransmitters are kind of in a way relating to the lyrics. What else do we got? Yeah,
I pretty much said the same thing that Joey said,
yeah,
like, I can't get you off my mind.
yeah.
And stuff like that. When I was with my ex, we were together for, I think, 7 or 8 months,
Mhm.
which is the time period in which things go wrong.
Right.
I literally, like, I could not stop thinking about him all the time, even after a breakup. Like, it was just all
Yeah.
the time, just straight, like, oh my, it was so bad. It was so bad. Oh my God.
Like the person said last time in the video, it's like they're camping in your head, right?
Yes.
Like, and
It was
you,
so,
like that obsession and that like, almost like an addiction in a way where you can't stop thinking about, can't quit you, right? Like you can't like get them off of your mind. But she like says repeatedly in here that that's like that dopamine piece too, and that serotonin piece, like it takes some of the romance out of it to put it to neurotransmitters, but they play such a big role, especially in the beginning, right? Did you
yeah, I was also gonna say it sucks too, especially when you have like a dependency on that person.
Mhm.
And with my home life at the time, it was really easy for me to just go to him when I was sad.
Mhm.
So I would associate being happy with being him.
Yeah,
It was literally an addiction.
yeah.
Like a day would go by and I wouldn't talk to him, and then I'd be like, okay, so I should just like not.
Right, and it's the I'm addicted, it's a crisis, right? Like, yeah, it is like at times can be problematic, right? What else? Anyone have anything else that you like underlined or could connect? What else do we got? Anyone see like an example of like adrenaline and norepinephrine somewhere? There's a couple of good ones. If we have an example of those where it's like affecting like your like physical stuff more than the mental stuff. Yeah,
The rest is like the classic day.
yeah.
And I crash and break.
Yeah, right. Like when you have that, like that rush, that physical feeling of a rush is very much like norepinephrine. And then on the back, right, like making your heart beat like an 808 drum, your heart beating faster, right? Like your heart is pumping quicker, your body's working harder, the butterflies in the stomach, the sweating, like all of those things again are chemistry. They're like biological pieces that play such a big role. And like you mentioned, like 7, 8 months, like we talked about last time, somewhere around that 7-month mark, these things fade, right? They just have to. And you have to find ways to get them back to a degree. Like we talked about, like roller coasters, scary things, thrilling things, all that can do that. But these things are very prominent chemistry wise in those first few months of falling in love with someone. Right? Anyone have anything else that you underlined or highlighted? Not to rob you of your examples. Anything else before I collect them from you? All right, if you want to pass those up, make sure your first and last name is on there. And then we'll keep going. Oh, thank you. Oh yeah, you could bring them up. That's even kinder. I like have the crutch over there. I'm trying so hard not to use it, right? But I don't trust my knee. I have like trust issues now, right? Like whenever I try and straighten it, did I tell you the straightening story? No, right? Oh, I have to tell you this. You're the only class that I could share it with, right? I went to physical therapy a week ago, and the doctor looked at me, or to the surgeon. I went to the surgeon, so that's what it was. And he looked at me and he's all like, "You're just not straight enough." And I laughed. I started laughing, and he's like, "What?" Like he like looked at me like he was like this like 65-year-old like totally like straight like guy. He looked at me. He's like, "You're just not straight enough," and I was like, my knee or what like what like and he's all like what else would I like he had that like what else are we talking about? And I was like he's like you need to work on being straighter. And I was like, okay, like I wanted to be like, can you give me more on that? Like and then like he said it to me like 4 times. I laughed every time. He never thought it was funny. Like as I was walking out, he's all like, okay, 90% of your effort on being straighter. I was like, okay, I'll wear a dress next time. Like, see you next month. And I thought it was like the funniest thing ever. And he come right over his head, like completely didn't get it. And I just laughed the whole time. I went home and I'm like, I'm not straight enough. So my doctor told me 4 times today, right? Anyway, I had to share that with all of you. If anyone would, I could share with, it would be all of you. Anyway, I don't trust it. Every time I try and get straighter, when I try and get straighter, I don't trust it, right? All right, I can have too much fun with that. I'll move on. Couple last thoughts with this chapter. There's like two more slides. Yes. Something that we've seen over and over again related to falling in love and attraction. 4 things that play a big correlation, and these are so common sense. But just to mention them, this would be a good short answer question. What are the 4 components of attraction or falling in love? Proximity, reciprocity, similarity, and attractiveness. 4 things that we see a lot with attraction. We tend to be attracted to people that we see, right? I mean, that doesn't feel very profound, right? But like people that we are near, like physical proximity to. So people you interact with that you see, you're more likely to be attracted to and drawn to than people who are far away. Seems very sensical. Reciprocity and similarity, interesting ones though. We tend to do better with people who have like reciprocity, which means that like there's a kind of back and forth that happens. When everything is one-sided, it doesn't tend to last as well as when there's a give and take, when there's a bit of a balance. We also tend to do better with people who are similar. So while people like Paula Abdul might say that opposites attract, they might attract, but they don't stay together, right? We don't tend to do great with people who are opposite of us. And that especially relates to things like our values and morals and how we were raised and so on. If people are wildly different, it can be problematic. Not always, but it can be. So we tend to do better with people who are similar, and we tend to be attracted to people that we find physically attractive. Yeah, just let that one sink in, right? We're attracted to the physically attractive people. Like, luckily, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So everybody has a different thing that they find attractive or unattractive. But we tend to be drawn toward people that we view as attractive in some way. Though you can obviously grow to find someone attractive as well. The last thing in here, qualities of or characteristics of high quality relationships, something that again has been studied a lot of correlations here. Good relationships that last tend to have good communication. Communication is so important. We talked about all that gendered communication like last week, right? So having good communication, seeing someone as your best friend and companion. So like a meaningful, deep relationship rather than kind of just being on the surface. Having realistic expectations and shared interests. You don't have to have everything in common. My partner hates football. It's like my favorite thing, right? Like we don't share that at all, but being able to share enough. We have common interests. You have things that you share that you like to do together. Frequent positive interactions. This was one of the strongest predictors of relationships lasting, right? That you have frequent positive or like happy, good interactions with each other, whether that's laughing or doing something fun, doing something you enjoy, being able to face and deal with conflict, and having sexual expression and variety. So just some things that we've seen correlation-wise that tend to very strongly correlate with relationships lasting and being what we would call like being satisfied with a relationship. Interesting. Yes.
Like honestly, like I do have to just hey, John's gonna share.
Oh,
Sorry, it's
no, it's okay.
Like on the whole thing, like seeing partner's best friend, it's like
Yeah.
I think it's like I've seen like one person like kind of do it, and like as like one person that was talking about like tropes, like kind of talk about like what their perspective on love is. It's like they saw it as like kind of like a bit above a best friend.
Yeah.
And honestly, I really like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically like it's like someone who's like you really like them to the point where you want to stick with them in the same house.
Yeah, right. You hope that you want to be around this person, right? Like they're like a best friend and beyond, right? For sure, for sure. And as I was looking at this, there was a kind of an interesting, like I saw this commercial, like I was waiting to watch a video and there was a commercial and it was so connected to this and like relationships and satisfaction and success. So I want to play it for you. I thought it was kind of a cool little thing. So let me pause this and I'll play excitement and others. Sometimes like things like technology and things that distract us are barriers, just kind of an interesting like note, right? And I know like my partner's obsessed with TikTok. It's like TikTok all the time. And so like I had to like make a choice, like be irritated with it or join her in it. So I just lay there and watch TikTok with her now, right? Like that, but that's my personality. Sometimes finding ways to make those things. Oh, I'm curious what's happening back there. Finding ways to either like bring that in or set limits can also play a big role and stuff too, yeah.
Oh, how excited they were when they found out it's free. They're like,
Right.
oh my gosh.
What is it? Yes, let's do it, right? Yeah, and it's just the off button, right? And technology can be a great helper for things, but sometimes like being obsessed with all those things can get in the way too, right? And that came up a little bit in the movie and on the worksheet that you filled out that like he's just not that into you. Older technology, but still. So we have one more chapter to kind of go through, and there's a lot of like little things in this chapter kind of building off of what we've been talking about. Chapter 10 with like again hormones and different chemistry kind of things, arousal, a couple of like behavior kind of things, a lot of like kind of like broad topics to just kind of mention here in the time that we have left today. And obviously we've been talking about hormones and like chemistry of love a little bit. So a little bit of overlap here. Androgens and estrogens, like hormones and neurotransmitters, as we were just talking about, play a big role in our sexual expression. They play a big role in how interested we are in sexuality and in intimacy. They play a big role in like how we respond to other people. So just like we were talking about, our sensitivity, our level of attraction, our sex drive, all of those things, very influenced by chemistry. And just to once again mention oxytocin, such an interesting hormone, as we talked about in the last chapter, plays a big role in attraction and connection to other people. And as I mentioned before, it's released when we're breastfeeding, right? And so it helps with the bond between like infant and caregiver, that attachment relationship. It's also released during orgasm, hand holding, cuddling, kissing.
Wait, was this from the previous chapter?
Yeah. So we talked about this in the last chapter too.
Uh,
But just to kind of mention that again, it plays a big role in our pull toward other people, right? So we see that not only is there a lot of like this when it comes to falling in love, but it plays a big role in our level of attraction, our sex drive, and so on as well. Right? The brain and our thoughts play a big role, right? And how drawn we are to other people when we're talking about like sexual behaviors. So again, we talked about dopamine and serotonin, like a little bit of overlap there, but our brain and our thoughts, right? In terms of how interested we are in interacting with another person and sexuality with another person, we can become aroused without any sensory stimulation whatsoever, right? Fantasies, which we'll mention again a little bit later, can play a role in level of arousal, right? Without any kind of physical stimulation whatsoever. Our brain can play a big role. Our neurotransmitters can play a big role. So again, kind of review from the last chapter. So where we go a little bit from here, looking at like the senses, our sexual response cycle, kind of different things that can play a role. We have a very prominent role of touch. Touch is sometimes considered like the dominant sexual sense. And in our body or on our body, we have primary and secondary, what we call erogenous zones.
Have you already written this down or are we?
No, this is new now. This is all new. But the slides like always are on Canvas, right? If you need them. But no, this is like the other was review, but this is kind of new stuff. So primary erogenous zones are parts of the body that have a lot of nerve endings. They're very sensitive parts of the body, right? And when those parts of the body are touched, they feel good, right? Conditioning can play a role in this. So these are places like the genitals, the breasts, the anus, thighs, neck, ears, mouth, lips. I feel like from Trolls, like it was like teeth, like like listing parts of the body. But these are parts of the body that are very sensitive, like almost universally. So we have an incredible number of nerve endings in all of those areas of the body. So most people, when they're touched or stimulated in any way, they are arousing. Now, anywhere on the body can become an erogenous zone through conditioning. So some people, for example, have fetishes where certain parts of the body are like very arousing to them. Let's say that your partner always gives you a massage, like a back massage before sex, and it leads to sex. Your back being touched could become like arousing for you, right? That could be any part of the body, right? So if like through conditioning, you always have something happen prior to sex, that thing becomes arousing. So let's say you always turn on Netflix and it leads to sex. Netflix, you turn it on, you could be aroused, right? Like we are wild that way with conditioning, very Pavlovian, very like automatic. But in this sense, like again, if your partner is always massaging your neck or your back and it leads to something more, or your feet, or it could be any part of your body, it could become an erogenous zone. Yeah. Yeah.
How you resolve it.
Right.
Interesting. I find it so.
It's wild, right? Like, so let's say, and I use this example in my intro psych class, right? Let's say that your partner's always eating like onion chips. And then they go to kiss you, right? Like they eat onion chips and then they kiss you. They eat onion chips and then they kiss you. And it happens over and over again. You're like, I don't know why you're eating onion chips all the time. And then somebody next to you opens a bag of onion chips. You might be aroused and go like, what is happening right now, right? It's kind of like a perfume or a cologne. If your partner always wears the same scent and you smell somebody else wearing that scent, you might have a moment of like, oh, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling from that smell, right? Like conditioning is wild when it comes to our automatic responses that we can sometimes get, whether we want them or not, right? So we can have primary zones that are very automatically arousing or secondary ones that become arousing due to experience. Smell plays a big role. Pheromones are an interesting one, right? So pheromones don't play as big of a role in people as they do in animals, but certain odors, like everybody kind of has like a natural smell to them. Been a lot of experiments with this where they have like somebody wear a t-shirt and then they have people smell the t-shirt and rate their like attractiveness based on smell. And then they look at pictures of them and they rate it based on appearance, and they tend to be correlated, right? So smell and the natural odors that people put off can even create a level of attraction. Our other senses are a little more subjective, right? But we see a lot of like stuff related to touch and smell. And then like the other ones tend to be a little more like variety, if you will. Any other like thoughts or commentary? I wasn't sure if that was a hand or not, but no. Okay. Interesting related to like taste and senses, aphrodisiacs and anaphrodisiacs. This is a really like interesting one that comes up a lot. Sadly, despite the fact that we tend to think there are a lot of things that we would call an aphrodisiac, there is no clear evidence of any like genuine aphrodisiac out there. Something that you could take or ingest or eat or whatever that would automatically make you more interested in sex. Okay, now there might be things that have kind of become conditions, but there's no genuine aphrodisiac like element or item out there in the world. If you've ever interesting, like heard the term horny before. Horny comes from the thought that the ground up horns of a rhinoceros would actually increase your sexual desire and interest. They used to grind them up and have people ingest them in like tea as a way to increase sex drive. No like merit to that whatsoever, but the term horny comes from that. As an interesting side note. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh.
There's no way that's real. That has to be some sort of.
Right. Yeah. And it's not real, but the role of expectations is huge. If you expect that it's going to help, it will probably help, right? Yeah.
Let's be sensual right now.
Right.
And then you give them like a chocolate strawberry.
Right.
And then you feel aroused. I'm sure that's gonna happen.
Yeah. It's more here in the mind than it is like there's nothing genuine about it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work if you expect it to work. Yeah.
But is there not like, so there's no substances that can increase hormones?
No.
Like people who like take Molly, for example.
Yeah.
Molly, but some of it really sexual.
Mm.
And that like improves sexual.
Sure. So a lot of like recreational drugs can increase like your sensitivity, if you will, or like reduce your inhibitions, but they don't necessarily increase sex drive, right? So they kind of might have like a backward way of working. And again, sometimes it's that role of like, I've heard it works. So it works. The placebo effect is massive, right? Our brains are so powerful in that way. Yeah.
So what about those pills that guys take whenever, so you know, so that's.
Okay, so like Viagra and things like that?
Yeah, stuff
Like,
like that.
okay, so Viagra, Cialis, all those kind of things, they increase your sex response. So your ability to get an erection, but not your sex drive.
Nothing increases sex drive?
Nothing.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy because we all tend to think, how many of you think like, oh, but this, but nothing. And it's so like, I found like this little excerpt from a talk show that I'll play for you where they talk about the common ones. It's all the role of expectation. And it comes from this thought in the past that things that were expensive would increase sex drive. Oysters, like strawberries, like all these items that were like very expensive and hard to get would be considered aphrodisiacs because they were luxurious. But it was more, again, the role of expectation than it was anything else, which is wild. Was there another, yeah.
A lot of people think Viagra does that, and I know.
Like he's talking about all these different substances, all these different foods. They're foods that are traditionally like very rich, right? Or like very luxurious. They were hard to acquire. And like, as I mentioned, like sadly, even though they're talking about them here, they don't have anything beyond the effect of expectation. It's all like placebo effect, even some of the herbs and like things that they're talking about there. It's all the role of expectation. Yeah.
And you feel like there is a little bit of a difference, like, and it was something you said, like, back in the day, like, most people
Yeah.
didn't eat enough.
Right.
Like, basically starving all the time.
Right.
So if you had an avocado or something super nutritious and healthy, like.
You're like, I feel good all of
I'm
a
sure it
sudden.
probably makes you feel a lot better than just like
Yeah.
oats and gruel.
Right?
So
Yeah.
I'm sure if you're like in a state where you're not like getting a good diet, like.
Yeah.
Healthier diet, like probably help a little.
Well, and that's kind of like the whole someone takes you out to a nice dinner and they like fill you with like good food, right? Like all of these things can improve your mood and therefore, and your mood plays a huge role in your level of interest, right? And so, yeah, I think it all roots back from like a period of time where people were very nutrient deficient.
And even like oysters have a lot of protein and like.
Yeah.
So it's gonna make you feel better.
Right.
It's probably gonna make you in a better mood, even if it's not direct.
Yes.
It might be indirect.
Yes, so in that way, they can be helpful, right? And like oftentimes, like taking someone out to a nice meal or doing something kind for someone, like improving someone's mood, like can very directly impact their like level of interest, right? But it's like a very indirect way of doing it, right? So the sad part is there's nothing that genuinely affects your like biology to change it. Cognitively, sure, like conditioning wise, sure, but there are a ton of anaphrodisiacs, a ton of documented substances that absolutely will kill your sex drive, right? And like antidepressants are one of them for a lot of people. A lot of people, when they take an antidepressant, it plummets their level of sexual interest. It's one of the most common side effects of antidepressants. This will reduce sex drive and sex interest. Nicotine is one of the biggest ones as well. Right? A lot of things like blood pressure medication. There are a ton of these, right? So a bunch of different like documented things that will reduce sex drive and sex behavior, but nothing that's documented to increase it. But like I said, antidepressants, really big one. SSRIs will do this. Yeah. 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 Right, so SSRIs, but when you add the norepinephrine piece, sometimes that can actually increase your sex drive a little bit, because it improves your mood, right? Like when you're depressed and through the floor, probably not super interested in like intimacy, but when you feel better and your mood improves, it can then like, again, in an indirect way, alter your interest. Yeah.
As for antidepressants, I remember being so confused. I was like, what the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that was a side effect.
Right. Right. And like not oftentimes, like, I mean, they're listed, right? But there's so many possible side effects that we don't always like read through them. But it's common with SSRIs that it can reduce your interest in any kind of like intimacy, right? Which is almost counterintuitive. You're like, oh, if I feel better, I should be more interested. But it can literally plummet it through the floor. So some other things here. related to like sexual response. Remember Masters and Johnson? The couple that studied a bunch of people, they were the ones who hooked people up to a bunch of instruments and measured them having sex and recorded the different phases that they went through. So Masters and Johnson talked about like 4 phases of sexual response that people tend to go through as they engage in sex. Now, they typically measured heterosexual couples, but this could be generalized kind of to men and women in general. But they talked about like as we are engaging in any kind of physical intimacy, we have 2 processes that are happening, and then we go through 4 different phases. And the tricky thing is that men and women go through these phases very differently, which can make intercourse specifically a little bit challenging for heterosexual couples. We'll look at that picture in a moment. But vasocongestion and myotonia. So as you become aroused, right, and you're engaging in intimacy, whether that's kissing or sex or like anything in between, right? We go through these 2 things. Your blood vessels fill with blood. And people sometimes get what's called a sex flush as a result, where your face turns red or your neck or your chest can kind of flush as all those blood vessels fill up with blood. And then we get muscle tension, right? Our muscles change and adjust as we're becoming aroused. And so they measured vasocongestion and myotonia in hundreds of couples as they engaged in intercourse. And what they saw is that these couples went through 4 phases: excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. And so as a couple, as a person was getting turned on, they called this excitement. This was like foreplay, getting aroused, becoming interested, starting like the journey or like experience of sex. And again, that sex flush that can occur, your heart rate starts to increase, your muscle tension increasing. As you're engaging in some kind of intercourse, they called that plateau. That would be like the period of time that maybe you're having sex with a partner, reaching a peak of orgasm, and then you resolve. And so what's interesting is they mentioned that like, and I'll show you the picture in a second, that you kind of go up and up and up in excitement. You plateau as you're engaging in intercourse, orgasm, and then come back down. And men actually have something called a refractory period. Women have the potential to have multiple orgasms. Men have a period of time following an orgasm where they are not capable of another one. Now, when you're young, this could be moments, like very, very brief, but the older you get, the longer the refractory period lasts. When you're in your like 60s, 70s, 80s, it could be days before you could get another orgasm. Your body has to reset. And it depends on your experience, it depends on your health, it depends on a lot of things, the frequency in which you're having like intercourse. But there is a refractory period in men and not in women. Women are capable of multiple orgasms, men have a period of time in between. Okay, so kind of following this phase, so let me show you the image here. This is what we see between men and women. And just looking at the image, you can see where the problems could be, right? Like why sometimes men and women struggle with intercourse. So women have way more like flexibility and variety in their response. And somebody years ago, and I'll never forget this, I had a guy in my class, he's like, oh my gosh, I could tell which one is the woman's one because it's so complicated. Like, and it stayed in my mind forever. He's like, of course the complicated one is the woman at the bottom, right? Everyone glared at him, but it was funny. But you can see the one down here for women. Look how much variety there is, how much variability. Like some women never orgasm and they just have like multiple little like waves. Some women have multiple orgasms, some women like hit here and then plummet down, like just like the variety in what they saw in female response was all over the place. Men tended to follow a very specific, like they go up, they plateau, they orgasm and then go down, and then they're capable of another one after that refractory period. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, you kind of mentioned, like, is that one of like, some women, other times kind of orgasms than men do?
Yeah. It can be, there's just more variety, right? And so what happens is women tend to take a little bit longer to become excited. Like, so their excitement period is typically longer than men. Men oftentimes, I have like a comedian who joked about this that I'll play for you in a moment. But what you can see in just the way that they respond is women, like, it tends to take longer for them to get to plateau than men. And then men, like, depending on their experience, because you can learn to prolong these with experience, they reach orgasm and then they're done. Versus women can reach orgasm and still be interested and ready to go, and have multiple orgasms. So the differences in the sex response can cause problems sometimes for people when it comes to like intercourse. Men have a refractory period. Women can experience multiple orgasms. Men can, in a very short period of time, that refractory period can be short, but it can also lead to problems. So I have a little clip of this. Let me play it for you. Old comedian, but it's so like along these lines, right? Bottle rockets and diesel engines. He called men versus women. Let me play it for you. Hold on one second. It could be problematic, just very different ways of bodies responding. And so, as I mentioned, men can learn to prolong that period of plateau. And they can reduce the refractory period through experience and through like control and time.
Which PowerPoint chapter is this?
10. It's been 10 the whole time. Chapter 10. And thankfully, we have a Canvas working again. It was annoying that it didn't work for like an entire day, right? So just again, some differences between men and women. The rest of the chapter is all about different behaviors, right? And so they mention a ton of different like sexual behaviors that men and women like can both display. Sorry, I'm gonna make sure I went back on here. Okay. So talking about celibacy, and celibacy is something that's kind of on the rise a little bit in our culture. Like celibacy or identifying as more like asexual, which I think is the way that we tend to see it more. People identifying as like, well, I'm just not interested in sexuality, right? And so maybe viewing themselves as asexual rather than celibate. Historically, when someone was celibate, it was like they weren't married. And you didn't have sex outside of marriage. So if you weren't married, you weren't having sex. But now it's like somebody who chooses to either not engage in any kind of sexuality, either partially or completely, right? So it might be that you say like, I'm going to engage in like anything but sex itself, or like I won't masturbate or have any kind of sexual interaction whatsoever, right? So kind of different levels of like complete versus partial celibacy. And a lot of reasons for that. Like in the past, it was very morally and religiously driven. Like I'm not going to engage in sex because I don't believe like religiously that I should, or morally that it's allowed or okay. I'm waiting for the right person. I want to learn about other aspects of myself. Now what we see, a lot of people are motivated by like health concerns, right? And other stuff as well. But like the fear of like acquiring like an STD or an STI, or wanting to be in like a committed relationship first. So celibacy is one that we kind of talk about a lot, right? That people are maybe choosing to engage in some aspects of sex, but not others, right? And again, kind of a commonly discussed sexual behavior. Another one, dreams and fantasies. And I mentioned earlier that your thoughts related to sex can play a really big role, right? So your mental experiences can play a big role, like whether it's like from books or photographs or movies or just like fantasies in your head. A lot of people engage in fantasies. Whether you ever express it to a partner and do it together or not is like completely like all over the place. But having like your own individual fantasies tends to be very common. And people can often achieve like orgasm without even any kind of touch. Like fantasy can be enough for some people. Fantasy can supplement for other people. But it's a very like common sexual behavior. So I can just kind of listing a bunch of different behaviors quickly. Any thoughts or comments or anything for the moment? Like, yeah. 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 It requires like a level of like practice. Like it's not a common behavior, you know. Right, you have to reach a certain level of like Zen, right? Yeah. But yes, it's possible, right? That you could reach like orgasm or some level of like arousal would be more common, right? Like that they could be arousing. And oftentimes people fantasizing or dreaming about sex can be a big part of like the repertoire of like behaviors. Reaching orgasm on your own, not common, right? Possible, but not common. Right. Any other like thoughts or questions for the moment? Anything else? You're like, I'm doing it wrong, right? And you're not straight enough, right? That's all I hear in the back of my head. Constantly, I'm not straight enough. Okay. Okay. We haven't done this in a while. But I want you to find a couple of people around you. All the slang terms you can think of for masturbation. Right? We haven't done slang in a little bit. Let's go on this one. So you're not turning it in, but write it down so you can share all the terms you can think of slang for masturbation. Okay, write them down. You can look it up if you need to, but write them down and then we'll share.
Now I need to answer probably those.
Brandon, I do recall it. Oops.
You just made that shit up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
You can look it up too if you struggle. Feel free. There's a ton for.
Oh, see. Sorry.
You're okay.
Dialing the rotary phone, bro.
Rotary phone.
Bro, what?
Holy Lord, I just paid off.
I just said that, I was like, what the hell? That's not.
I just paid that.
I'll machine the banister.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, we go everywhere. Whenever my friend sends like characters of I'm
Very cold.
yeah.
How they are.
You know where Goody is from. I just saw it on TikTok. It's like 6'7". Why'd you look over here so?
I'm surrounded by preteens. It's always makes out.
My little brother, he's 16, and we literally, I feel ashamed to think that it's funny, but we literally just go like this every single time.
Every time.
It's funny, but it's not funny. It's not what it is. No, it's from this like white.
Yeah, I'll get your coffee.
This little middle schooler.
I need to go on.
It's
Butter in your
like,
stuff like that.
that says 6'7", and then
Who's Rosie
Joe
Palmer?
6'7" basically.
What was that?
Who's Rosie Palmer?
It's just like that your palms are red, right? Like,
Hello.
They say have a date with Rosie Palmer.
oh.
Is he okay with it?
Did I ask consent for it? That's funny.
Dude, what is your TikTok?
Oh, that was the worst. That's normal.
All right, I'll give you a couple more minutes and let's see what you came up with.
It's about grades.
Huh? I'm not seeing right now. Is this what old people feel like when they hear 6-7? Yeah, that's good. Dude,
That's
you
what
know,
like
so-
the ones that are we hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I don't 6-7 just making fun of them. That's not what the.
Yeah, well,
They made
well,
us-
I forgot the- I mentioned this.
My friends literally looked that up. It's like, I do it, but it's you. I was like, listen, this is a good time yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, have we exhausted our list? Yeah? Anyone want to read theirs? Yeah? Okay, go for it. Go ahead, go back ahead.
So. We have,
All right, so I want to hear it ready. Here we go.
we have Booning, Jordan, Bob, Lady Levine, DJing the DJ, Painting the Hog, Linking, Obi.
All right, excellent. Go for it. Don't worry about it.
Alright, Frankie your hog, jerking off, jacking off, beating it, beating your meat, shooting, beating off, tugging it, giving it a tug, pulling your pork. I just came up with that. Spanking a monkey, spanking the salami, choking the chicken, going solo, edging, pounding off, buttering your muffin, waving, finger painting, getting off, tickling my fancy, and the old brook.
It's so aggressive. Like so many of them are so like aggressive, right? Like anyone else? Any other? I heard a lot of food ones too that like an evolution. Yeah. Don't worry about overlap. Just go for it.
Wait, stacking on / kids, clicking the bean, thinking the hog, jorting it.
DJ, pulling taffy, milking, peeling meat, ripping the worm, choking the chicken, tapping, spanking the monkey, and feeding it.
All right. Excellent. Very nice. Right. So a lot of slang for masturbating. What's interesting is most of them are very geared toward men, like kind of more geared toward like male anatomy or like male idea there than female. Not all of them, obviously, but masturbating is something that traditionally condemned, right? Like it's something that is oftentimes controversial to talk about, but it's stimulating yourself for sexual pleasure, sometimes called manual sex. Right? Like where it is your own like manual effort with yourself. Really wild. If you look at the history of masturbating, like as I said, it's just been condemned throughout time, especially when we look at it through any kind of religious lens. So when in 1918, the Encyclopedia of Health, okay, so for our country, the Encyclopedia of Health said that if you were to masturbate, it would lead to noticeably impaired health, including sore eyes, blindness, stupidity, loss of all energy or spirit, insanity, and idiocy, the hopeless ruin of your body and mind. That was the medical encyclopedia in 1918 said that. If we look at going back in time, even, we had these thoughts that bland foods would make people stop masturbating, like stop interest in sex. If we remember that like little quiz I gave you way back, graham crackers were specifically invented by Reverend Sylvester Graham, right, in order to eliminate masturbation. Graham crackers were invented to stymie masturbation. Now, graham crackers now have like sugar and cinnamon and all sorts of things to them. Not the idea, but they were meant to be this bland food that made people less interested in masturbating.
I feel like if you're so bored, you're just gonna end up being like, okay, well, whatever, I'm bored. I'm just gonna start jerking. Like,
Right, that graham crackers wouldn't stop it, right?
Yeah.
No, right? Or just don't eat the graham crackers, right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Kellogg's cornflakes and graham crackers were invented to stop people from masturbating, right? Next time you eat cornflakes or graham crackers, like not so much when you're having s'mores, you have the chocolate and the rich foods, right? It was the idea with like bland food would make people less interested. There were all these stereotypes about like the things it would do, like lead to blindness, you'll have hairy palms, right? Like you could masturbate it off, all these like horrible like things. So much research to indicate that masturbating is not unhealthy, right? The issue that can sometimes come is that people do this too often. You could reduce your sensitivity. That's fair, right? Like if you're masturbating all the time, your sensitivity might be less because you become so like numb to that in a way because it's happening all the time. But for the most part, the number one reason people masturbate is to relieve sexual tension, right? So maybe they have a higher sex drive than a partner, or they don't have an available partner. And so you are relieving that tension that you're feeling. Some people find it to be relaxing, giving themselves just a moment of pleasure, variety, like building your stamina. We talked about stamina a minute ago with like that plateau phase. So a lot of very erroneous health concerns. For years, it was like you will go to hell, you'll go blind, you'll have sweaty, like hairy palms, like all these things completely like fueling a lot of this like condemnation of masturbating. But it's a very, very common sexual behavior. Almost everyone starts here as some form of like exploring their own sexuality or their body, right? But traditionally condemned. And a lot of really awful slang related to it as you just explored. So we only have a couple of minutes left. So what I want to do instead of like just trying to race through it, obviously look over these slides. So there's a little bit in the book about like kissing and touching, oral sex as well, anal stimulation, and then intercourse, same-sex behaviors, and tantric intercourse. So make sure you kind of look over those last few slides. It's just kind of bullet highlights of those rather than trying to race through them. But don't forget on Monday that we have our second exam. Okay, so the study guide is there. Anything on the study guide, make sure that you know it for the test. Make sure you do it by 11:59 p.m. Okay, right? Please take it by that time so that you don't have it like expire and go away. Use the study guide. When I see you on Wednesday next week, we will start chapter 13, which is contraception and abortion. Okay, so I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'll bring you candy on Wednesday when I see you. I'm ready. I'll bring my candy. I have it in my office. Let's go. But don't forget about the exam. Good luck, and I'll hang out for a minute if you do have any questions or anything. Okay. Have a wonderful weekend. Stop.